Good morning, and welcome to Real Human Design Stories, where we share real-life stories of how human design has helped our guests know themselves on a deep, transformative level. Whether you're joining us live here during Sunday Story Hour in my Facebook group or catching this on your favorite podcast platform on Mondays, you'll be able to find all the details you need in the show notes or the Facebook comments. Human design helps us to differentiate between what is ours and what is conditioning. By knowing and trusting ourselves, we develop deeper, more honest relationships and unlock our true gifts. I'm Kathy Bashanko, and my guest this week is Carola Eastwood, a 6'2" emotional generator, left angle cross of dedication. And I have not met Carola before today, and I'm super excited to hear all about your really in-depth human design story. I almost feel like we need more than an hour. You've been doing this for a minute, huh? Hello, and welcome.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the invitation. I'm really delighted to be here. I love to share human design. It's such a powerful, transformative system, and it's made so much difference in so many people's lives throughout the world that any opportunity I have to share a bit about it, I'm happy to. And you know, I was invited to share my story, which goes back quite a long ways, actually 25 years, to the first time I was ever introduced to human design. So I just want to find out, Kathy, is this a good time? Do you want me to launch into my
Yes, I'm sorry. I would love for you to just tell everyone. And in this group and on my podcast, we have all kinds of people, as far as some people just found out about human design. Some people have been doing this for years. So I do try not to throw too many numbers around without explanation, but I'd love for you to just jump into where you were at when it came into your life and how it impacted it.
Okay, I'd love to do that. So a little background, even before that, I had moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico to study astrology with Alan Oken, who, if those of you who know astrology would know him because he's a world-renowned astrologer. And I did a private tutorial with Alan. In that 7 years that I lived in Santa Fe, I created an astrology practice. I taught classes, gave talks and workshops and that sort of thing. And in the course of that time, I had a gentleman from Taos come and join my class. And over a period of time, my time in Santa Fe came to an end, and I moved to San Diego, California. So my background was, as I was learning astrology, I was also in college studying counseling psychology. So my work was counseling and using astrology, weaving astrology in with the counseling work, because it gave me so much depth of understanding of a person's psyche. All right. So 1997, I'm in my home, and this old friend from Santa Fe calls up and he says, "Hey, I'm in San Diego. I got to come see you. There's something new. You got to see this." He brings this old clunky computer that must have weighed 10 pounds. And he shows me my new design chart. And something in me really recognized the chart. It resonated with me. Of course, I had no idea what it was. So that was my very, very first introduction. This was in 1997. At the time, human design was so new in the world that Ra had just begun teaching. He had a couple of teachers, and it was a very, very tiny little organization based out of Taos, New Mexico. So I decided, well, I'd like to learn this system. And I began kind of looking around for teachers, put out some inquiries. You know, it wasn't easy in those days. And in the meantime, a little bit of background. I had been married and divorced, had 5 children, and I divorced again, was living on my own in San Diego. And I decided to take a year sabbatical from any dating, any romantic. I didn't even date at all, nothing, for a year. And just have a year, as my children were kind of growing up and leaving home, just have a year of finding myself again, and after started having children at such a young age. And so I had this beautiful year in which I was exploring, meditating, going deep. And what came to me, what I was so crystal clear about, is that I really wanted a soulmate. I didn't want anything less than a soulmate because I'd had that. But I wanted a soulmate. It was a desire in my heart. So I'm having this desire for a soulmate. And that's a bit of the background when my friend comes into my life and says, hey, look at this. Here's this human design stuff. And I get interested and intrigued. So I'm doing my meditations and I'm visualizing my soulmate coming to me. And I'm doing all the inner work I can do to draw my soulmate to me. And I'm learning about my human design. So I'm a generator. Gosh, what does that mean? That means I have a life of response. Whatever is ever going to happen in my life is going to come out as something I respond to. But I get this deep gut response that just guides me to what is truly interesting me, what is calling me. Then, of course, I'm also emotionally defined. So in human design, that means I have a whole nother step to take before I get clear and make a decision. So this was brand new information to me. And if you know a little bit about my background, I had studied psychology. I had done a 2-year postgraduate course in psychosynthesis. I had done 2 years of deep work with past life healing. I'd done 2 years with Barbara Brennan, healing through the energy field. So I had a lot of background about healing, about transformational systems, about consciousness, awareness. But this was brand new information to me. It's like, wow. And I look back over my life and I realized, all the decisions I'd made, the really important life decisions, had been just spur of the moment, gut response. I was interested in something. I was pulled to something and I would go for it.
Mm-hmm.
So the big revelation for me was, whoa, so I have this emotional authority. So I decided, well, I want to learn how to make decisions according to my emotional authority. Now, this is all happening towards the end of my year-long sabbatical, no dating. And I decided, it's 11 months in, I decided it's time to start dating. It's time to start looking at, who might I draw into my life? And there were 4 different men that I had some level of interest in. And I thought, I'm going to try this human design thing. Right? So I did this experiment. First, I had to get my gut response. So I had to teach myself what that felt like, because, of course, we're all so conditioned to make decisions from our mind, go up to your mind and figure it out and do the pros and do the cons. And then, God knows how anybody ever makes a clear decision that way, because it absolutely doesn't work. But that's what we've all been taught. So I thought, I really have to learn this thing. And I devised this process where I went and looked in a mirror and I taught myself how to listen to that response, that that rises up from the gut. For anybody who's a generator or a manifesting generator, that's the first step, or. And what I knew, because from my NLP work, I knew that if I looked straight into my eyes in the mirror, and I didn't look up or down or sideways, I looked straight into my eyes, that I could get just a clear body response, not going to my mind or my memory or anything. So that's what I did. So I have these 4 names of these 4 different men. And I was like, all right, so should I date David? Got it. Just didn't realize to that. Okay, how about Bill? Wasn't there. All right. How about Henry? Maybe. Yeah. But that's the mind, right? All right. How about James? So my whole, and I'm making up these names because I actually honestly don't remember them, right? But my whole self just lit up. It's like, James. And I really did have an attraction for this guy. I thought, I want to date him. I'm going to reach out to him. And then it was like, wait. What about my emotional authority? Because my sacral isn't my final word.
Right.
So I said, all right, okay, I got really excited about it because it had been 11 months and I was really ready to meet my soulmate. And I was really attracted to this guy, but I thought, all right, I said I would learn this, so I'm going to learn it. So I'm going to sleep on her. And I'm going to go to sleep asking myself the question, should I date James?
That's a great
I thought for sure, I'm going to wake up. That's the guy. I had a big sacral response, right? So, go to bed, wake up the next morning, and I'm like, no. Like, what do you mean, no? It's like, it's not James. I just knew it. I knew it in every cell of my body. So I had my first experience of my emotional clarity. Now, I didn't like the answer, but I thought, I said I would teach myself this stuff. I'm going to learn it, and I'm going to just abide by it. I'm going to just do it. So I didn't respond to James. I just said, I gave myself 12 months. I'll take the 12 months. Never mind. All right. Now, concurrently, I'm looking for a human design teacher, right? And I find out there's only 2 teachers that Ra has certified to teach. And one of them lives in Maui, but he's traveling in the US teaching classes, and he's got a class in San Francisco coming up. So I booked myself into that class. And I remember looking at his name, the teacher's name, it was Chetan Parkyn. And I remember feeling some kind of recognition when I saw that name. But I didn't connect it at all to my dating stuff. It was like, I'm going to go learn this. So in my meditation, 3 days before I go to San Francisco to take the course, I get this very clear guidance. I'm about to meet my soulmate, but he's not going to recognize me the first time I meet him. I'm like, okay, it's like a download. I just know this. It just comes to me. If human design, I've got the 2343, so that's how things arrive. So I'm okay. I'm still not thinking it has anything to do with the human design class. It's just I'm about to meet my soulmate.
Sure.
I fly up to San Francisco, and I'm a little bit late for the class, which I think you're going to interview Chetan next month. You'll get to hear that story, maybe. But anyway, long story. I won't bother you with it. But I'm a little bit late for the class. So Chetan actually comes and opens the door. And I take one look in his eyes, and I know that's him. I just know. But, it's a 2-day class. And so there's more to this story, how that all evolved. But the bottom line is he really didn't recognize me as anybody other than somebody who seemed to have a lot of potential learning human design. And he was a great teacher. And I learned so much in that weekend. And went home and decided, okay, I'm going to keep learning this stuff. And I was disappointed that there was no reciprocal kind of energy, that I thought, this is my soulmate, but he didn't get it. But at the same time, I was also really interested in human design. So I thought, I'm going to go to Taos, New Mexico, where Ra was teaching. For those of you who are brand new to human design, Ra is the person who human design originally came through. He got the download of the information from the universe and began teaching it in 1993. So I went to Taos to take one of his classes, and lo and behold, Chetan was there at the class. So we meet again. And this time, and there's only about 12 people. This is early days with human design. There's maybe 10 or 12 people in class. But the energy between us was so powerful that everyone in the room felt it. It was like it was undeniable. So, a soulmate relationship is a very powerful relationship. So we're drawn together. And our relationship sort of begins, but he's living in Maui and I'm living in San Diego. At the same time, I'm learning human design. So long story short, I decide, well, I'm going to bring Ra to San Diego and have him teach a class here in San Diego, do his workshop thing and stuff. And I got about 200 people, my colleagues and clients and all of that together for this big class. And of course, Chetan came. And Chetan had already agreed to come to teach a class in my home. So that's how I got introduced to working with Ra, because he stayed in my home for 2 weeks. And
I can only imagine what that must have been like.
it was intense. I was really surprised, because what I hadn't known about him before that is that he had no background in metaphysics. He was a salesman. He was a successful salesman in Canada, and had a midlife crisis and left his wife and kids and went to Ibiza in Spain. And I think, he, through the course of time, he got this download about human design. So it changed everything for him. But what he didn't have is any background in spirituality and with meditation, with any kind of esoteric sciences. And
a musician, right? And
I'm sorry?
He was a musician, right? Like, I believe I heard someone say that he was just wanting to go there and like play music and everything.
Classical midlife crises,
right?
Looking for himself and leaving his old life. But I started to see through some of the ways in which he was interacting that the way he was teaching human design was as this sort of static thing. Like, it's like, this is your design, it's just the way it is. And it felt a little stultifying, a little limiting. And what I began experimenting with, because of course I was learning also from Chetan, I began working with my counseling clients and introducing them to human design, and I have them have a human design reading with Chetan. And what I experienced is that after they had their human design reading, their whole healing process started speeding up. So I got really interested in the transformational aspect of human design. That it not only was about, okay, well, here's your system, and here's how you make decisions, and here's how you move through life in a way that will generally be in the flow and keep you healthy and make sure you're having the experiences that you're truly meant to have, and meeting people and engaging with the things that are right for you. And all that is so absolutely true about human design. It's an amazing system, but it also, what I began to realize, and Chetan and I working together, is that it's also a powerful system for inner transformation. That every activation within the human design chart has a frequency, an energy frequency, from the highest frequency to the lowest frequency. So it's not a static thing. It's like, when we learn our human design, when we start to really live our human design and we bring it to life, there's a powerful transformation that happens that isn't just about learning different behaviors. It's an inner kind of transformation. It's an awakening and opening. And what we discovered, so we began really doing our own research and our own really deep look into human design outside of and beyond what Ra had been teaching. And what we recognized is that human design actually has the power to support an individual to really come to their soul's truth, their deepest, most profound truth, and that what we call authority in human design, which is the key in human design that teaches us how we make decisions that are always going to be the right decisions for us, that key is actually the doorway to being able to hear our spirit's truth. So whether that's through the emotional center, like it is for me, whether it's through the sacral center, I think for you, it's through it's the emotional center also as well, but it could be for somebody else. It could be through the spleen center, the heart center. There's 6 different main authorities. And those are ways of coming to our truth. But when we're coming to our truth, what we're coming to is our soul's truth. Mm-hmm. So we found that human design opened the doorway to our own evolutionary path, our path of awakening. So over the years, as we began teaching our work with human design, which we delineated as a bit different from the way that Ra had been teaching it, based on our research and our work with it and all the clients and students that we had together. So we, at the time, Ra had created this other organization, and he had invited us to join it. And Chetan and I decided, no, it's not our path. It's not our work. We're going to do our own work. And that's what led to the first human design book that Chetan wrote. Human Design: Discover the Person You Were Born to Be. So over the course of time, I was using human design and coaching with it, counseling with it. Chetan was giving readings. We were teaching classes. We developed our own little network of people and following. But this was all when people used to come in person for classes. You know, we didn't have Zoom. We didn't have this technology. This was a long time ago. And then in 2008, when the book was finally finished, that's a story interesting. When you interview Chetan, ask him about how this book came about, because it's a fun story as well.
Okay.
But when the book came out, then it all of a sudden, we had this huge following. So we had to sort of scramble and put together a business, an actual business that, conducted human design classes and videos. We took everything online. We did a big change in our work, hired employees, etc. And that really began our journey as, one of the many voices in human design that has a particular way of teaching, and the way that we teach it, present it, is as an evolutionary system. It's here to support your awakening, and a rather sort of shortcut to awakening is to stop doing the things that you aren't meant to do, going down paths that you're not meant to go down, right? Because then you just create these roadblocks for yourself. And
sometimes that's easier said than done, though, right? There are a lot of people who know that that's the path, but they're like, still, yeah.
You got to practice it. It's like, I really set out to teach myself not just the information, which was interesting and compelling, but to live it, to embody it. Because after all, that's what it's for. It's, human design is the first modern system that we've had in thousands of years. We've had all these ancient wisdom traditions, right? Astrology, the I Ching, the Kabbalah. I mean, they go way back.
Yeah.
Thousands of years. Human design was meant for these times of global awakening. And it really is a tool that can support us to that individual awakening that then makes, and sometimes people think, well, okay, so once I know my human design and I practice it, then my life is just going to be all good, right? It's going to be all great. Well, this is maybe another interview for another time, but there's a whole purpose for life on Earth, and it is about our personal evolution. And we have our lessons. We have the challenges that we're meant to have in life. We have the capacity to move through those challenges, and through that, we gain in awareness, we gain in wisdom, and we grow. And we do that through perhaps many incarnations. So human design doesn't prevent us from having the challenges that we're meant to having. It just helps us to stop creating challenges for ourselves that we're not meant to have.
Yes. That's a great way to put it. That's okay. Because, so many people are like, what am I doing wrong? I'm still having, struggles. Well, that's how we grow. It's like, when you go and you work out at the gym, you don't think, oh, I still get tired when I work out. Muscles get tired. I must be doing it wrong. Well, no, that's the point of it. You push yourself. You have these things. Yeah. So that's beautiful. I want to back up a little bit because there was something you talked about. I had so many things that went through my mind while you were speaking. But first of all, I thought it was, of course you wanted your soulmate, right? Because that's where the sixth line, that's, we're always feeling that call for finding our soulmate. But when you were doing the exercise in the mirror And you said looking at yourself, looking in your eyes in the mirror so that you could connect with your sacral. Because I've heard a lot of talk now. I don't have a defined sacral, so I don't have experience with it. But I've heard a lot of talk, and I often warn clients about trying to ask their own sacral that, they need to respond to what life brings them. And so is that a trick that you think is pretty reliable, or is it just for people when you're at a certain point, or if you can just speak to that a little?
Well, understand that what we respond to is not just what the outer world brings us. It can be what the inner world brings us. So I had a desire for a soulmate that was coming from my soul, and I responded to that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I know people worry that, they're going to try to use the sacral to respond to their mind, and that gets tricky, right? Or am I misunderstanding?
Well, I don't know why one would do that. If you really understood human design, that that the mind is an excellent biocomputer. It's an amazing biocomputer. And although it contains intelligence, it contains no wisdom. So it isn't a place that we go to for wisdom. Wisdom is of the soul. And the way to access our soul, besides traditional ways like meditation, etc., is through connecting with our clarity. So what I had no other reference point. It was literally, there were 2 teachers plus Ra of human design back in the 90s, 1997 when I first got introduced. So this process worked for me, but it probably worked for me because I knew NLP, and I knew that the one way to get a clear response was to look directly into my eyes and not avert my gaze. Because that would keep myself in the present moment.
Would you mind explaining briefly what NLP is for our listeners?
Neuro-linguistic programming. It's a way of understanding the way that energy moves within us, and a way of learning, those who study it, how to intervene in some energy that's moving in a certain way. I just referenced it. I wasn't using it at that point. I just knew that. I knew that if I'm looking up here, I'm referencing something, from my memory. Mm-hmm. If I'm looking down here, I'm going into my own personal past, or I even forget it. It's been so long, but I knew that if I looked straight into my eyes, I could get a clear response.
Yeah.
And I have found that to be true. So it can be responding to. You could be reading a magazine as a generator or a manifesting generator and read an article and to have a response to that article. And be compelled to read more. So it isn't just that something needs to come from outside of you and directly ask you something.
Right.
More subtle than that.
Okay. So when the book was written, you guys kind of split off from Ra and started your own thing, right? And
we split off from Ra way before the book was written.
Okay. And so I know that human design was so different. It's recently just exploded, right? So there's all these different factors or sections of human design with different people teaching it a myriad of different ways. But at that point, there was Ra, and then there was you guys who started doing your own thing. That had to be hard. That had to have been hard.
It was a very clear decision.
Yeah.
It was a very, very clear decision. It was clear to us that we couldn't, in all integrity, teach human design the way it was being taught.
Right. And that was the static nature of it, right? What would you say specifically was?
One of the things as a 6'2", you can understand this, I really dislike gossip. And I never do it. Mm-hmm. And I don't but I'll just say this, that we found that our ethical standards were very different than Ra's. I'd like to just put it that way and say that.
Yeah, I don't want you to feel like you have to go into something that feels like dirt. I was just curious.
Because Ra was, he did an amazing thing.
Right.
He brought it through, and God bless him for that. And, I have a lot of love and respect for what he went through to bring it through.
Yeah.
And we found that in terms of ethics and business ethics and that sort of thing, we just were not aligned, and we couldn't, in good conscience, stay with that organization.
So, at what were I was almost going to jump too far into the story, and I want to stay a little bit more where you are in the timeline. So you start this new thing, and so you personally are in your experiment now. At this point, when you did this, was it a couple of years later? No, you said no. That was 2008, so it was a while. That it finished in 2008. When did you begin the book process?
Okay. So we began, Chetan wrote this book.
Yeah.
Okay. So he began writing it, in 96? No. Sorry. No. Something like 2002, 2003. He had begun, he had several starts with it. And again, when you interview him, you'll find that he had an amazing experience that gave him knowledge that human design was going to come into his life before it even got downloaded by Roma. So he was expecting this system to come to him.
Right.
And then he recognized it when it did come. So he knew, and what came with the information was that he would write books about it and he would share it with people all over the world, which has come to fruition. So he knew it was for him to write a book about human design. And he did, several different versions of it, manuscripts over those years. While we're together, we're teaching, we're giving classes and doing readings and, having our life together,
When did you start teaching with him? How long into your experiment?
About 2 years into our being together. So our relationship, it took 2 years for us to put our lives together because he was living on Maui and I was in San Diego. So, there was some logistics to take care of. And by the time we put our lives together, it was 1999. And he came to San Diego to live where I live. And we began living together. And that's when I began assisting him in his courses and then assisting with the teaching. And that just evolved from there,
Are you in San Diego? I know you're in California, but is that where you are?
Yeah, we're in North County, San Diego.
Okay. I used to, I spent about a year in 1992, I think it was, 92 to 93. I lived in Orange County in Aliso Viejo area, but I had a store that I used to go to in Horton Plaza. So, yes, San Diego is a beautiful area. But
it is.
Okay, so getting back to you and your, how human design impacted you personally, obviously it brought this amazing relationship, it brought a career, but what would you say the biggest change was that you felt in yourself as a person was it the emotional clarity piece? The
emotional clarity piece was the big revelation. I mean, it was all revelation. The sacral response was a revelation, but that felt more natural to me. I think I sort of pretty much naturally been doing that most of my life. My sacral center is it's got 2 channels for the self to the sacral. So it's pretty strongly defined. And it's one of the channels that's totally conscious. So I think I'd always been somewhat aware of that and somewhat sort of haphazardly living in that way anyway, by response. I know that whenever I tried to manifest something, go out and make something happen, it never worked. It never worked. So I think I had already been doing that, but not with awareness. Living a life of response, but not with awareness. And certainly, for decisions, life decisions, I was what we came to call jumping my wave. In other words, making a decision before I waited out my emotional life. So, and that when I look back at my life and all the decisions that I had made, I realized that never once did I really go to my inner clarity. I didn't know to. And it was human design that helped me to recognize that, to know that, and to learn what it feels like when I'm crystal clear in that emotional sin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question. I think I got off track a little.
Well, I don't know if I had asked it, what was the thing that had the biggest impact, the thing that you felt?
Yeah, it was the decision making, because, what I found, having been a counselor for all those years, is that most of the pain that people experience in life comes from having made very poor decisions. They become a lawyer because their father's a lawyer, and that's what you do. You go to law school, and then, so 7 years of school and all that money, and then working in a law firm 80 hours a week, et cetera. And then they find they hate it.
Right.
But they're, in their late 30s. They're in their first wake-up call.
Right.
So, that's a huge loss of time because the person wasn't clear in their own decision making. So I think that the authority key is the most important of all the keys. They're all important, but this is the one that's life-changing. So I would say that was the biggest impact for me.
Yeah. And so I'm wondering too, like, I just keep thinking, because I think I mentioned to you before we got on that my sister has the same incarnation cross as you, and she was married to a man who had the exact version you do. She has a different, I forget, I think dedication 1 and you have 2, and her husband had 2. And that whole gate of saying yes, right? That gate 29, like when you have and in your case, same as my sister, that defined sacral, and you have this innate, like, saying yes to your tribe all the time kind of response, without waiting for your emotional clarity. That's really interesting. I am curious too, because I noticed that Chetan's, because I've gotten his chart too, because he is going to be on to the show next month, that you guys have the same sun and conscious sun and earth gates, although he was born a different day, obviously, because he has a different design. And so I'm wondering, so you both have the Genius to Freak channel as your conscious sun and earth. That's a lot of really transformative energy in one household, right? And is that...
Yeah. Well, we're born 3 days apart, same year.
Oh, same year. Okay. Awesome.
And the difference is that, so we have a lot, we both have the 6447, which is the crown to the mind. It's the abstract mind. All the possibilities are always growing. We've got the 2343, this capacity to use our voice to bring transformation. We've got the 3740, which is the channel of community. We both have that with our nodes, our nodal axes. So it's our life path, our life journey. What's different is that I have the 515 and the 2946, the 2 channels that go from the self center to the sacral center, defining my sacral. And Chetan does not. So he's a projector. Mm-hmm. I'm a generator.
And he's right angle cross and you're left angle cross. And
yeah,
how that dynamic, if you feel that dynamic in your relationship very much.
Totally. All the time. Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's good because, since we work together, so we have an interesting relationship because it's not just a lover relationship and a marital relationship and a family relationship. It is that, but it's also a business relationship. So we're business partners. We write together, we teach together, we create courses together, we travel together, give workshops together. I mean, this is a lot of collaboration. So I think that similarity serves us in our work together, certainly. I don't know if you've seen us teach together, but there's a natural kind of flow and ease that happens between us it's just organic. We don't try to make that happen. It's just what happens through us when we get together and teach.
I try to watch your transit reports, at least, the monthly ones. And I do notice that, definitely. And I also wonder, because I'm also a triple split like you are. And I noticed I did look at our charts, and I know mine well enough to look at yours and go, oh, we're 9-0 and we bridge all of each other's splits. So we're single definition 9-0. So there's not that's, a lot of energy connecting, a lot of bells going off with that sort of thing. Does Chetan bridge your splits?
Nope.
And I think that's almost good. That's almost a better thing.
They used to teach that, in a relationship, you've got to have, the ideal thing is 8 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I used to teach, So you have, between you, the two of you, you've got 8 channels defined and 1 undefined, and that's where you get to play. Right?
8 centers, you mean?
And so, we do have that. Chetan and I do have that. And interestingly, the center that we have undefined is the spleen center, and of course, we're both healers and the agent of transformation, so that works beautifully. But our splits, the one split isn't bridged, and what we find with that, so what Ra taught is that for a relationship to really work, you need to have those splits bridged, and there's some truth to it in that the energy moves with a kind of elegance and precision and definite impact when there's a single definition in a relationship. But what we found is that because of the work that we do together, we're always getting bridged. We're always with people. We're always in front of an audience. We're teaching. We're collaborating. I have a big family, so children and grandchildren and 2 dogs, and so it's continually that split is getting bridged between us.
Is there just one bridging gate? Do you know what it is? Or not? That's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's so the 59 would be a bridging gate for us, which we don't have.
Okay.
So that would bridge
3 times, so I'm good.
That would bridge over the emotion center, which we both have, to the 3740, to the sacral, right? Which he has undefined.
Right.
But we don't have that. So that's where that split is.
Yeah. So I was just curious, because I have the triple split and my husband has small split, and we go single definition together. And especially as, there was a long period of time where he was home all the time. He's gone back to work now. He retired and then went back. But there was a long time where he was in the house, and I started to really notice, oh, I need to go to the store. I need to go get in the public aura, because you feel kind of smothered when you have that same bridging all the time when you're a triple split, right? We're meant to connect in different ways. So I just was curious how that played out. So in some ways, I think it's almost better that you don't feel that complete, in there. So, yeah. And so
fine. That's all I can say is it works fine. It's not a problem for us.
That's one of the things that I think is important too. Like when people start looking at relationship connections, and I'm gathering this is how you teach it too, that it's not teaching you what is the right relationship for you. It's how to navigate your relationship in an authentic way.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right, Kathy. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, you started so early on, and now the human design landscape is so completely different. And I feel like, there's, as in anything, there's the extremes and then there's the middle. And I feel like I'm pretty much in the middle. But there's the people who say only what Ra said mattered, right? There's all these people that have made Ra their guru. And then there's a lot of people who are like, just flying by the seat of their pants and just have read a couple of things that are out there teaching it in ways that, feels prescriptive and unaligned or whatever. And then there's a lot of us in the middle who are finding our own truth and sharing it in a way that resonates with us. But you guys have gotten a little bit of criticism for for being one of the first to go out on your way. And I'm wondering,
not just a little.
yeah, I've seen a few of the memes, but I'm wondering if you feel like that's gotten worse or better as human design has.
I don't know. We don't really pay attention.
Doesn't matter. Okay. Yeah, that's
that this is an example of why we left. It's like what. First of all, Ra never taught that. He said human design is meant for everybody. And he never taught that it was supposed to be some sort of exclusive thing that you only learned it your way. He told Chetan, write your own lines. Then you really come to know them.
Right.
So he didn't have that kind of. This came later with an organization growing and a person ahead of the organization who felt it had to go a certain way. But this is it's meant to be a consciousness system, an awareness system that awakens us to something greater than we have been before. And so, one just has to look at what would be the purpose of attacking people who are doing this work who are also doing this work that you're spreading in the world.
Yes.
And I can only say it would be from some deep sense of insecurity. I mean, why would you attack us? We're just out there doing our work.
Right.
There's 7 billion people in the world, so there's like plenty of people.
Something
also know that, Ra intended human design to be for everyone. Not just for some unique little clique of people. And the attempt to keep it the attempt to keep it all in one house and only in one teaching and only one way was never going to work. Whether it was us or somebody else, it would have been somebody else who decided, no, I've done my own research, I've done my own work with it, I've found my own findings, I'm going to teach that. And if you look at history, similar things sort of happened with psychology, where Freud was the original, father of psychology, and the Freudian way was the way to understand psychology. And then we had Carl Jung, who came with a completely different approach to, with the system of archetypes. And then psychology began spreading out, and now there's all different kinds of psychology.
Right.
So of course, human design is going to spread out. There are going to be all kinds of different human design and applications of human design. We're evolutionary human design. We're about helping you to support your evolutionary process and let your awakening process. That's what we love about it. Other people are doing other things with it. And as long as they've studied, they've devoted themselves to it, they're true experts, great. Now, there are a lot of people out there, a lot of TikTokers, a lot of, who, like you said, they just have dipped their fingers in it a little bit and think they know something. And they're out there, really watering down human design. And what to say? I mean, it's unfortunate that's happening. There's no real regulation on human design, on who can teach it, who can, and it is unfortunate. But my sense is, Kathy, that the people who are meant to learn from us, they find us.
Yeah.
And they know it. They recognize that we're their teachers.
Yeah. And, there's this big thing that I'm newer to the business end of human design, right? I've been doing work as a human design mentor for a little over a year. So pretty newbies. It's definitely my off the roof, totally life-changing part of it all. But, it's real, even in the human design community, it's really, there's so much out there about, the way you have to do it for business. And it feels really unaligned with how you really are as a person. And even just limiting things like, there's a lot of limitations. For a long time, I got stuck in the whole, I can't do this because I'm a projector. I'm a projector, so I can't. I just have to wait. And when someone asks me to start a business and to share things, and they'll just show up. And I literally was at a point where I was having some health issues with sleep apnea and my throat getting obstructed. And I woke up one morning just with this knowing of that was my channel 1-8. and that it was just constricted because I wasn't using my authentic voice. And I literally that morning heard a voice in my head, and I've said this before, say, are you going to just die by choosing not to live? And I was like, okay. And then I realized that, I'd been told so many times that I was a projector and I should just sit there and wait for someone to give me permission to speak. And it was just so not me.
Disempowering.
I am chatty Cathy. Like that's as a kid who I always was. And I really understood that, for me, it's about not looking for the recognition. It's not about not speaking. It's about speaking when it's authentic, speaking when it's inspired, when it's the right thing to say, not because, if I say this, somebody will pay attention. That's the part I needed to focus on, and that the inspired voice needed to continue to speak, and that chatty Cathy was not meant to be stifled, right? So, and in my business, though, I still have people who are coaching me at times, whether it be a coach that I work with or just people that you see that are telling you to do all these things. And I'm like, that doesn't feel aligned, right? That's, and so really trusting all of that has been a huge thing. You guys work with a lot of people on business, right? Isn't that one of your things you're specializing now in?
One of the things we teach is human design for business application. And we're still working with the person's human design. We're working with specific aspects of the human design that give us a sequence of energies that, if they're followed, will give a business, an ideal business model for the individual. Like some people are meant to be speaking to a large audience, hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people. Some people are meant to teach in small groups. Some people are meant to maybe do very specific kind of specialized kind of work within a corporate environment or a business environment. I mean, whatever our innate nature is, the way that we teach the business aspect of human design is how to make it more successful, how to align yourself with your business codes so that you use them to promote your business, to position your business, to do your marketing, to do your sales, to do all of the aspects of business that have to happen if you're going to have a business. All right. So that's the essence of how we teach the business of human design, the business chart itself.
Yeah. So there are specific things you look at in the chart to tell.
Yes. Well, yeah. And we have a course. We teach it once a year, where we guide people through their own unique business codes and awakening those codes so that they're aware of them. And then we coach them. And so we teach this together. We coach them on how to refine the language of those specific aspects of themselves, like they're basically like how they express their purpose, how they express their, how they draw their ideal audience to themselves, because they're clear about who they're working with, and how they deliver, et cetera, et cetera. So it just helps to clarify how we approach our business.
I'm wondering if you can give me an example using your own chart, as far as like, what you learned about yourself and how you do business. A couple of things, if you don't mind.
Well, there's so the 2343, which Chetan and I both have, is very prominent in our business chart. And it's essentially, that's the voice of transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and transformation is as distinguished from change. So change can be incremental, right? That's in the logic circuit. You get a little better, a little better, a little better, a little better over time. Whereas transformation is a jump. You have a very highly transformative channel, the 3955. So, you take jumps. So like that leap that you had that you talked about, when you just have this awareness that, wait a minute, I'm not using my voice in the way it's meant to be used. I'm not going to constrain myself. That was a leap,
Mhm.
right? So our understanding is that what we teach and who we teach are people who are ready to have a transformation in their life. So transformation implies that you start at one level and you make a jump, a leap to the next highest level. And that there's no, what do you call it? There's no guidepost for that. There's no book of instruction for that. It's something that just happens through that individual circuitry.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then the essence, the quintessence of the business for us, an example is that for us, it's a first line, it's simplicity. Simplicity. So how we see that. So in other words, the whole essence of our business is that we make it simple and we keep it simple. So we see a lot of people out there going down all these rabbit holes with human design. And you can do that forever, There's spaces and there's colors and there's tones and everything. Now, none of that is relevant. None of that is relevant unless you have an exact birth time, an exact set to the atomic clock birth time, which almost nobody has. So you're going down all these rabbit holes that may or may not be relevant to anyone because they don't have accurate birth times anyway. Right? If your birth time is 2 minutes off, that throws that whole thing off.
Right.
Sometimes if it's 30 seconds off, it throws it off. So there's all these rabbit holes that people go into. Fine. It's interesting. And someday it'll be really relevant. Someday when births are done and there's an atomic clock and it's recorded, then we'll be able to use all that information with accuracy. So we saw that, okay, there's a lot of different, roads you can go with, a lot of different, but what our calling is to be an agent of awakening in this time of planetary awakening. So since that's our calling, we use human design in a really simple way. And that is to support people to get aligned with their truth and live it. Not get all lost in the data and the information and the data, but to love it, to begin actually living it. And we find so many people do that.
Yeah. A lot of, that's what I was saying. I was talking with Chetan just for a few minutes before you came on camera.
Yeah.
He set everything up for you. So, that was a nice surprise. I didn't expect to meet him today, but, and I was, now I just telling you that I forgot why I was telling you that, but
There's the 8 month. There's the 8 month at work, right?
Right. So, but there was something that we were talking about that was related to what you were saying, and now I just lost it. But I noticed that we are at the top of the hour, so I do want to let anybody who's watching in the Facebook group, if you have any questions, now would be the time to put them in there because we only have a few more minutes left. But I do really love everything about what you shared. I think it's been really helpful. I wonder if there's anything that you haven't touched on that you might want to, that feels like it's left unsaid.
Well, just that we're living in extraordinary times, and it is a time of awakening, a global awakening. And that awakening is the most important thing that can happen for humanity. So whatever we're doing, whether it's getting clear about our human design, or we're in a process of learning meditation, or anything that we're doing to help us to awaken and become more clear. Because when we're awakened, we live from a place of love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, to me, that's the most important thing that we can be doing right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just writing something last night about the Identity Center, and really feeling into the idea that, the magnetic monopole, which lives in the gate 2 in the Identity Center, is attracting things to us specifically calibrated to the frequency of love we hold in that center, right?
Yes.
And
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we just really hold ourselves and others in that frequency, everything that we draw is going to be of the same level, right? So And that I do think is one of the important things about, I know it was when I was telling Chetan about when I first started with my experiment, I got a little turned off and left it like only early on because I read the stuff about 2027 and the rave, and it just sounded crazy and really doom and gloom, and so I kind of left it behind, but it kept coming up for me. Oh, well, yeah, but remember that thing? You're supposed to wait till people recognize you. And, oh, you initiated that. And all these things kept coming up. So you can't really unsee something, right? Yeah. So, but that was something that was related to something in there. I don't know. I have a completely open ajna. So there were so many times where stuff just comes out and I don't even know where it's coming from. But I did not see any comments. I had not any questions, but I did have some people say that, it's been inspiring. And so I just wanted to let people know if they want to work with you, where's the best place for people to find you and connect with you?
Well, our website, evolutionaryhumandesign.com, is a good place to go because that basically that's the introduction to our work. And on the website, there's the homepage, there's the free reports, which was something that we created way back when the first human design book came out, was the Human Design Report. And you can get your chart from there. There are readings, there are classes that we teach. If you just look at the tabs at the top, there's trainings, there's readings, several other tabs that'll take you in other directions. So we've tried to make it where we have some low dollar investments that people can make where they're just sort of beginning to get interested in human design and learning about it. And then also our courses where they actually, want to learn it. We have a course that people can take if they want to learn human design as an adjunct to something they're already doing. Like they're a coach and they want to learn human design so they can use it in their coaching. So that's our human design training course. And then we have an advanced course, which is a certification course for people who want to do professional quality human design readings. We have a business success course you mentioned. We have a yearly course that's about the energies of the day and how to select some of the energies that are perhaps a little better than others for doing things like signing contracts and things like that. So we have a lot of resources on our website and some videos that tell a bit about our story, our background.
Yeah. And you also have a wonderful YouTube channel of the same name, right? It's Evolutionary Human Design. And I highly recommend the reports, especially on there, have been really helpful. And I love the videos that Chetan does about the different
gates
with the lines of the hexagram. It's very, very helpful. So every week we share stories of how my guests have come to understand themselves in a more loving and empowering way through the lens of human design. How you think and speak about yourself matters. Human design can show you the reframe of not only your own story, but the story you tell yourself about your relationships. If you're ready to start living a better story, I'd love to help guide you through the process of fully embodying who you came here to be. I invite you to follow Real Human Design Stories on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform, and would love so much if you could take a moment and give me a 5-star review if that feels aligned. To work with me directly, you can set up a discovery call for free at kathybashanko.com. And I just want to thank you again, Carola. I've really enjoyed this.
You're so very welcome. I'm happy to meet you and to get to give a little bit about our human design background and the way that we work with it so that your followers will know about all the alternatives out there. It's been great fun. And delighted to have your chart so I could see, the energy of the person I'm talking with. It was lovely. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. That was lovely. Peace out, everybody.